Good morning and welcome everyone. Thank you for joining me, Sanga, and my fantastic co host, Morton. Again, it's one of these bright, sunny, cold, chilly morning in London. And today we have bright young mind with us, Charles Cross, CEO of Anglian Care. I always get that mixed up, Anglian and Anglican. It's Anglian Care. But you have also recently acquired other home care businesses. You are doing amazing work with another venture, which we'll hear all about. So welcome to Take Care Podcast.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me.
Charles, and obviously I've kind of followed mostly on LinkedIn and on the sideline, followed your ventures into tech and social care, and obviously since this podcast is just about that particular field, we thought it'd be really interesting to see you today and to hear about your experiences. But before that, we almost always ask people who are on the podcast, how did you get into social care?
Yeah, it's an interesting question because I think someone, especially of my age as well, it's not normally a career pathway. I mean, we always talk about perceptions of social care, maybe starting younger, looking to get into schools, looking to get into universities. And I've heard before that we don't really have many interactions with social care, normally until it's a crisis. And then we have a negative perception because we're always trying to find social care then. So how I got into it was I was straight out of university, did an economics degree. And I was doing another venture, and at the same time I was using Anglian Care's offices, and Anglian Care was founded by my dad in 2008. And as using those offices, I remember the very first project was a website, and I said, we need to change this website. I need to build a new website. So it was sort of a side project that I was doing as I was starting this other project, and the other project fell through. And really, it started from the website, and then I started seeing people come in with timesheets, for example. And so why is it that we do things like that? And then we automated the finance, the payroll, etc. And then it was really around mark sheets. That was the next real thing. And this was in 2019. And I said, why is it that we're having to audit 30 days after? It just didn't seem that was even useful in some aspects. So again, then we looked at a suite of different technologies. I personally demoed around 15. I remember at the time it was sort of a hobby. It got to that point. And then there just kept being more and more problems that I thought, well, why do we do it in that way? And is there a way that it could be improved? And 9 times out of 10, it was something to do with technology. There was some technology that was already out there or that was being created that could help. So, and then here we are today.
Wow, that sounds like an awesome venture into this very particular field. And it seems like you very much then for Anglian become, well, COO, of course, by title, and obviously also CTO to some extent. It seems like you're very much responsible for everything that has to do with any type of technology.
Yeah, it seems to be the logical answer to a lot of these problems. And what was so striking as well, I suppose, from a little bit of an outsider initially looking in, is my background was in economics, and a lot of the work experience that I'd had is either in financial advisory firms or underwriting and insurance. And all of those experiences that I had, we were working with value and derivatives and things like that, and really high-tech tools in Excel, add-ons and things like that. So then to come into social care, I thought there needs to be, we need to take some of those lessons. We need to take some of those technologies and even in a small way, if we can make those incremental improvements, then we can really make a difference. And it's really around diverting those resources that would otherwise be auditing or otherwise be monitoring or otherwise be looking at all of the paper and that we were dealing with on a day-to-day basis and saying, okay, how can we redirect all of those resources back to actually delivering the care? And normally technology takes a lot of that away from you and it allows you to focus on what really matters.
Absolutely, and I think that realization is a great realization when you look from outside in as well, and that's why we encourage and like voices like yours to come and talk about your experience, not only from that outside in perspective, but also now from inside out. You're also exploring newer technologies, and you're doing wonderful projects with Moonhub. Tell us more about that.
Yeah, I think this was started in a very similar way. It was we'd done the digitalization of Anglian, and the next thing, and was pre-pandemic as well, was learning and development. And I found that when I was looking around for alternatives to the way that we were conducting our learning and development, that was a hybrid approach. So face-to-face training for the large majority, and then e-learning, and specifically as well around refresher training. That was maybe lighter touch because it was a higher frequency, and those people didn't need that same level of training initially, but they needed meaningful, ongoing learning and development. And I found that when I was looking around, whether it was third-party companies or if it was other organisations, so other e-learning platforms, I couldn't justify investing in those because not in all of them, and I'm tarring everyone with the same brush, but there's definitely some great products out there. But I found that there was a problem there, and really I knew of the Moon Hub guys, and we'd spoken before, and we sort of had a joint mission then of bringing virtual reality to social care, virtual reality training, because the more and more you think about it, the more you realize social care is so situational. It's so it's about looking at those soft skills. It's looking at those interactions. One of the things um, one of the things that I say about our virtual reality training is when you get a compliment when you're delivering care, what is that person really saying? And 9 times out of 10, that person's saying, there's great communication, there's great interactions. The care team really have my mum or dad's best interests at heart, and that's around those soft skills. And that is a part of the training that just didn't seem to be. There wasn't enough emphasis on it. So we then set out on that long project to develop a training, and then we partnered with Professor Claire Sir, who's been absolutely incredible throughout the whole process. I always joke that she's made me essentially do an undergraduate degree in dementia care because of how much information that she's put into this, and it's so meaningful. And it's just great to have one of the leading academics in this space delivering training to our care team. And I think if we can do that more and more and have those leading experts, institutions, academics teaching our care team in a medium that is more suited to social care, because it is looking at your environment, being connected to your environment, it seems that that's going to be, and it's more accessible than face-to-face training, and it's a similar cost to e-learning. So it's trying to pull on the best bits of what currently exists and then merge that with the expertise.
Absolutely, and specifically now that there's a lot of focus also from for bringing uh, team members and colleagues from other countries. How do you then give them an immersive experience of the culture over here? Because it's very different to what they have learned or what they have been delivering in, and coming to a completely different country and having to deliver with a different set of clientele. I think that's a very beautiful use case that you have explained there.
That's a really good point. I hadn't really thought about that, Sanga, that obviously for not only training that you're either going to refresh or new training that you're embarking on, but also, of course, cultural, as you said, Charles, situational, relational topics related to the training. But I was still thinking, just because you're really pronouncing it as something that goes on widely across Anglian now, but aren't there any barriers then? I was thinking just something very practical. How many VR sets have you got?
Well, I think we've got more than you need, maybe, but we've been piloting this and testing this for so long. I think everyone in the organisation has done the training multiple times, especially within Anglian, and then we're just rolling it out now at Ash. care. And initially, this is one of the really good parts around creating this training as well, is that we were able to send the care team the initial script, and then we were actually able to, with the director, go and visit those that we care for living with dementia. So the team have felt throughout the whole journey that they've been part of it. So now that they get the opportunity, it's really been co-produced with them, and now they have the opportunity. They've been really eager and excited to do it. So we probably have around 6 headsets, I would say, across 3 different locations. So 2, but I mean, you only need 1, and you can really, the flexibility that it gives is if someone's, during a shift, maybe it might have a gap, might have an opportunity for a bit of downtime, they can jump on and do the training. It might be after the shift, it might be before the shift. So it really has that flexibility that is so built into e-learning, but then gives that opportunity to then have the training from Claire, and Claire narrates throughout the whole training, which is really beneficial. And one of the unique things that she does is she explains the answers after every part of the training, so for good or for bad. So one of the aspects that we had so much focus on was that we were going to explain wrong answers, because one of the sort of reflections that we had when we analysed the current training is people would just click the right answer, and leading people to the right answer doesn't often give them a full picture of the unique situations that they actually face when they're delivering care. So sometimes the explanation of the wrong answer is just as valuable as directing them always to the right answer. So we had quite a big focus on that as well.
Absolutely.
Adds something to the whole, which is of course the whole point of it, but the whole learning situation, rather than just, and I know how that is because I often also fill out queries. I know what's going to be right here, so I'm just going to tick those off. I'm really learning, whereas this sounds very different to that type of learning style. But so you've had no barriers, you're saying?
There's definitely barriers. I think perceptionally there's a barrier with using virtual reality. I think as both of you two have done such a great job of pushing the digital agenda, I think again it's now moving. I suppose what's past that, and what's past that is what other areas, as well as our systems and our processes, that we can bring digital. And as I say, there's some great product in that sphere. And it's okay, what other parts of social care can we change the way that we do it off the basis that it will be improved through maybe more efficient technologies, through allowing sort of the academics to teach people. So it's definitely a barrier around perception. There's not really too much of a barrier around rollout because of the flexibility. There's not too much of a barrier around actually wearing it as well, because with the increase in the technology in terms of the actual cameras, they're now 8K resolution. The frame rate on the cameras is now extremely high, and it's actually the frame rate which normally causes the nausea. So that's becoming less and less of a problem. And also, we haven't done any CGI purposefully within. We've done overlays, but we haven't created characters, let's say, or avatars within the training, because we want people to feel that emotional connection. In order for that to be its highest point, we need to make the scenarios lifelike. But what that also helps is that helps again with the nausea, because you're watching a scenario that you've been in before or you're likely to go into. So and also we're from a static point watching, rather than we're not moving around, we're not going on a roller coaster or walking the plank. So and I think that sometimes that is the first thing that springs to mind, and that's really where, if we have practical applications of some of this technology, hopefully over time that people can really see the benefits.
That sounds like such a hands-on, very logical approach to it. I do remember my first experiences with VR, XR and stuff, and actually things that have prevented me from really exploring it has been nausea, all those types of perhaps being exposed to the extent of the systems programs, or perhaps just the episodes that I've been a part of. made me actually refrain from using it.
Yeah, and I would say if you had, for example, an MVP of a software, and then you said to consumers, go and try that, and then they say, oh well, it's clunky because of this, or it's lagging because of that, for all of these reasons, then when you finally have a product that you're really proud of, they'll say, I'm not sure because I tried it before and there was all these problems. So it's the same sort of mentality with VR. People tried VR when it was first happening, when they were on roller coasters, or potentially the technology wasn't there yet, or the technology was actually too ambitious, and the fact that we needed to make a more slower practical application, and make sure that that's right before we then move on to something more ambitious. So I think in that same way, it's those perceptions, but then trying it and roll out, and also gathering the evidence base. And we're currently running a pilot study with Leeds Beckett University to actually build the evidence base of VR. And I think that's, again, over time, we've released the preliminary results at the UK Dementia Congress, and we're looking to have the final results this year as well. So again, building the evidence base of really the effectiveness of this technology is going to be a big part of changing that.
Awesome. So what's next for Charles?
I think creating more virtual reality training. I think that's a really important part with MoonHub and I. I think we've already signed up other academic institutions who are currently building scripts, and we're working on that. I think the rollout is going to be quite strong for this year, so that's going to be positive. We recently visited Sri Lanka to look at the IIHS, which is a great university over there. They're doing some incredible work with virtual reality as well, but they're really training and offering people in Sri Lanka the opportunity to have a really robust healthcare course, but it's actually underwritten by Coventry University. So you can essentially do a bachelor's in Sri Lanka and then a master's in Coventry, and they've partnered with the New York University and Deakin University. So that's going to be really interesting moving forward for this year, is how do we further partner and help with that international recruitment. And I think that would be it, hopefully. But you never know what comes up.
Absolutely.
I really wanted to just ask, because especially now, I think I get that you're predominantly focused on dementia training right now with MoonHub. But I also heard you say now that you're looking for other types of applications or training programs. Have you identified areas where you think, or where you believe this could be our next big thing?
Yeah, I think we're looking at movement handling. We're looking at safeguarding training, which medication training are all in progress. But again, if anyone's listening and they want to collaborate or have any ideas, then feel free to get in touch. Open to any ideas and how we can really expand the modules in subjects that really make sense. So yeah.
Those sounds really pertinent. I mean, they're really complex things, all of them. But at the same time, having a traditional e-learning course wouldn't necessarily cover you the same way as I believe, and I hear what you're saying, this would do. So I think just off the top of my head, sounds like really good topics. I know from Secor that we can load tasks, activities with recordings, videos, and the best of the users record videos of the people that they support in their own situation. So if I'm a new person supporting you, I know exactly how, for instance, hoisting you goes on. But to have this on top of it would be crazily good. So I can really see where you're coming from with that.
Yeah, and I think that's an important point. It's hybrid, it's blended. I don't think it's the only answer, but it's definitely going to help. And also with some of those subjects, the ability to put it into virtual reality and someone who's doing the training to actually experience the mistake in a controlled environment is so impactful and actually generates that knowledge retention because of the emotional connection to the scenario. So in some of the aspects, we almost want to take the highest risk subjects and turn them into virtual realities, and then allow those people, learners, to make those mistakes and feel those risks. And then that's what's really going to generate that learning and raise the standards.
Absolutely. And this is where I'm seeing that, the whole world of compliance and auditing and inspection is going to change, because then it's more like, you fail in a free environment, in a safe environment, and then you go into the practical world and, give your 100% and ensure that you've achieved that. And I think it's going to change social care for good. So coming towards the end, I have two questions for you. One which has been left by one of our previous guests. And the question goes like this: what is the toughest thing in your job?
I think that the toughest thing is no different to anyone else who's running a social care business. I think, all of us are trying day after day after day to ensure that morale's high, to ensure that we're staying on top of the compliance that we need to do, making sure that we're delivering good care. And I think these things are our day-to-day, but it's actually the most toughest thing to do it so consistently, especially in the backdrop of maybe the workforce crisis and the backdrop of lack of funding. I think just that daily grind is probably the toughest thing. So there's no real one thing. I think we're all experiencing it in different ways.
Yeah, quite well said there. And finally, what is your one prediction for social care in next 12 months?
It's difficult. I'd like to say everyone using virtual reality. Can I say that?
Of course you can.
We'll leave it there.
Charles, good to have you on Tech Care, and we'll make sure to load the episode once it's out.
Thank you very much.
Thanks so much for having me. Thank you.
Yeah, no, keep doing the good work, keep inspiring. Thank you very much for that. And you take care.
Take care. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening. Don't forget to subscribe, review, and share your favorite Take Care podcast with your friends and colleagues. Until we meet next week, take care.